U.S. effort to battle these extremists. Joining me now, two of our hosts from CNN's Crossfire, S.E. Cupp and Van Jones. Welcome to both of you. And S.E., you're first at bat, because let's just begin with some Republicans. Many of these Republicans are actually not skeptical of this plan, this strategy. Why aren't they?
Well, I think the Congress and the American people, as well as our international allies, have been far ahead of the president on the threat of ISIS. We were shown just how potent the threat of ISIS was, both in these beheadings, and we've seen them attacking all the way from Aleppo to Fallujah since January. So a lot of people were worried about ISIS a lot earlier than Obama was. So Obama has come to the table, and now I think, frankly, a number of us are kind of just breathing a sigh of relief and hoping finally we're going to do something about this. But on the left, you have to wonder, you know, not just where are they on this, but where have they been? I mean, whether it's drone strikes or extrajudicial killing or the NSA spying program, a lot of the dovish elements of the liberal movement in the Democratic Party have been kind of silent on President Obama's incoherent foreign policy over the past 6 years, and you wonder, where are they on this?
Van, let me just have you respond to your colleague's question, and then the notion she says the Republicans have been far ahead on this.
Well, I think on matters of war, the Republican Party is a lot more hawkish, or tends to be more hawkish, frankly. Any opportunity to criticize the president, they've taken it. Two things. One, you know, it's very hard for presidents to get countries whipped up for war. You know, FDR was under a lot of pressure to do something during World War II. Not until Pearl Harbor could even a leader like FDR get the go-ahead to go for it from the American people. There have been threats growing in the Middle East for a long time. It took 9/11. So it's not surprising to me that it took a beheading of an American to get the country to move forward and to give the president that space. I also want to say, though, one reason you don't see a lot of people going nuts about this is because it's such a measured and, I think, appropriate response. He's saying we are going to engage militarily, but we're going to build a global coalition. We're going to be appropriate. You know, he reminds me of George H.W. Bush. Who was also able to bring the country together. So I do think that others want him to go faster. I think he's moving at the appropriate speed, and his tactics are actually appropriate.
But Van, measured, yes, but then we are hearing the words, you know, destroy and degrade coming from President Obama and others within his cabinet. When you brought up the 9/11, when the fact remains the U.S. is fighting al-Qaeda still 13 years later after trying and continuing to try to destroy it.
Well, look, we are in a long and probably from a military point of view, unwinnable war against these extremists. What we have not talked about enough yet is what would it take to get a generation of young Muslims to turn away from these nutcases and actually be a part of the world community moving forward. You know, you got almost 500 million young people in the world right now who don't have jobs, who don't have a future. Young people need something to believe in and something to do. And if we don't start leaning in with these young Muslims, these terrorists are going to take up that space. America should be the light of the world to these young people, not these butchers. And we should be talking more about that.
Look, we're retreating from the Middle East, pulling troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan, avoiding the Syria situation for 2+ years, did not get us the kind of peace that we wanted, did not rid the world of terrorism. Just saying that al-Qaeda has been decimated doesn't make it so. So we need to take these actors, these bad actors all over the world very seriously and act quickly. And I think what you're seeing from the American public, also voices in the media and the left, is that doing it President Obama's way for the past 6 years has not taken us to where we want to be. So I think people are a little bit more open-minded. They're still skeptical, as Van says. They're not as hawkish as some of my colleagues are, but they are more willing to go in seriously because they've seen that sort of an isolationist approach, or at least an incoherent foreign policy, doesn't get us where we need to be.
Okay. Guys, stay with me if I can. I just want to hold you over a break. There was a little steak fry over the weekend in a state, you know, sort of significant here when it comes to running for the president of the United States, Iowa, and these two were there. The question I want to pose to both of you is the former president overshadowing his potential presidential contender wife. That's next.
Hello! 3 grams daily of beta-glucan, a soluble fiber from whole grain oat foods like Cheerios, can help lower cholesterol. Thank you.
Super Tuesday at Joseph A. Bank. Almost everything in the store is buy one, get two free. Office wear, casual wear, sportswear, and accessories. Buy one, get two free. Savings start Monday, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Struggling with weight goes beyond willpower.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Belviq may help. It's FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. Belviq plus diet and exercise can help you lose weight and keep it off. It's unknown if Belviq is safe and effective with other weight loss products or changes your risk of heart problems, stroke, or death. Belviq activates receptors in the brain believed to help some people feel full and eat less.
I've had enough.
Don't take Belviq if you're pregnant or planning to be. Tell your doctor if you are depressed, have thoughts of suicide, or take medicines for depression, migraines, or colds, as they may cause life-threatening side effects with Belviq. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Don't drive or use heavy machinery till you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Stop Belviq if you have prolonged erections or your breasts make milk or enlarge. Belviq may lower blood sugar or blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Ask your doctor about Belviq. For 15 days free, call 800-978-8314 or go online.
I would like to take a moment to address my fellow veterans because I know there are so many of you who have served your country honorably, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, or 32 years like myself. One of the benefits that we as a country give you as a veteran is your eligibility for a VA loan. Not 80%, but 100% the value of your home. That's what you are entitled to, and that's what you can get at New Day USA.
Call 1-855-515-2463.
Closed captioning brought to you by 1-800-PET-MEDS. Call or go online now for big savings and fast free shipping.
Pets are family, and we know it. So trust 1-800-PET-MEDS for the exact same medications the vet sells, but for a lot less. Call or order online today.
Surrounded by killers. His life on the line. Meet the former jihadist who risked it all to take down the world's most dangerous terrorists. Double agent inside Al-Qaeda for the CIA. Tomorrow night at 9 on CNN.
You're driving along, having a perfectly nice day, when out of nowhere a pickup truck slams into your brand new car. 1 second, it wasn't there, and the next second, boom, you had your first accident. Now you have to make your first claim. So you talk to your insurance company, and boom, you're blindsided for a second time. They won't give you enough money to replace your brand new car. Don't those people know you're already shaken up?
Liberty Mutual's new car replacement will pay for the entire value of your car, plus depreciation. Call 1-844-227-0054. And for drivers with accident forgiveness, Liberty Mutual won't raise your rates due to your first accident. Switch to Liberty Mutual Insurance and you could save up to $423. Call Liberty Mutual for a free quote today at 1-844-227-0054. See car insurance in a whole new light. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
The Lead with Jake Tapper, up next on CNN.
I've got a few things on my mind these days. First, and most importantly, Bill and I are on constant grandchild watch. And then, of course, there's that other thing.
2003, it rained like crazy. I felt like I was a, 20-something at Woodstock when I came out and looked at this thing. The only thing is, marijuana wasn't legal yet anywhere.
The Clintons at the Senator Tom Harkin steak fry over the weekend in Iowa. Let me bring back my Crossfire host. We've got Van Jones, SE Cup, and Van. Listen, Bill Clinton, he is great off the cuff. He's, wonderful with people. That's part of his charm. His wife, much more choreographed, maybe measured. You tell me what the better word is. But my question is, are there real fears within your party that the former president could overshadow his wife should she run for president?
No, listen, first of all, it's kind of like, look, it's football season now. It's like, is it a problem if you've got a star quarterback and a star wide receiver? No, the real problem is this. Hillary Clinton is going to overshadow the entire Republican field.
Which one's the quarterback, Van?
Hillary Clinton. Hey, listen, Hillary Clinton's the quarterback now.
Answer the question, Van.
Wide receiver. Hillary Clinton's the quarterback now. But my point is, This is great. Listen, nobody is going to vote against Hillary Clinton because her husband's awesome. I don't believe that's going to happen. I think it's great. And she looked great, by the way. She was as relaxed as I've seen her. She's ready.
I was worried where you were going to go, likening this to the NFL. So we're not going to go there. Essie, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I don't disagree with Van. I don't think she has to worry about being overshadowed by Bill, and everyone is already under the assumption that they come as a package deal. You know, she delivered this great, like, Jack Nicholson line in Iowa, "I'm back," and it really should have been, "We're back." And if I were the RNC, I would grab that and play it over and over and over again in a loop. It's starting to just feel a little flashbacky. We get it. You want this return to the Camelot years of the Clinton age. I just don't think the American people are where they want us to be, they being the Clintons. I think the American people want fresh ideas out of Democrats and Republicans. And so reminding us that they're back, I don't think is exactly the right tone to take.
Van Jones would disagree. QB1, QB2. Van and Essie, thanks you guys very, very